Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be going over why the Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, VIG, is likely a better dividend investment choice than the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, SCHD. And this is going to apply to people likely with a longer investment horizon that don't necessarily need a higher dividend yield. So at least for myself, VIG is the largest asset that I hold when it comes to ETFs. I own about $44,000 of this ETF compared to about $20,000 for SCHD. And I do that simply for personal reasons because I have a much longer time horizon to invest. But there are also several other reasons why somebody might choose VIG over SCHD. It is pretty much based on what I mentioned, a longer time horizon, but it's also based on a few other factors. So immediately starting out, investors that want a more broad selection of the stock market, of course, would likely have a better option of VIG because the total number of companies that the ETF holds is 338. Comparatively, SCHD only has a total number of holdings of 103. So right off the bat, VIG has over 3 times the number of companies as SCHD. When it comes to industry diversification, VIG has a much higher weighting toward information technology at approximately 23% of the total holdings. Now, comparatively, SCHD only has 8.8%. And I know a lot of people want to invest in information technology because that is a majorly booming industry to be invested into. When you look at SCHD's top 10 holdings, you definitely do see a more value-centric investment methodology or value-centric top 10 holdings. You do see stocks that wouldn't really conventionally be considered as growth stocks or even stocks that are likely to grow a lot in the future. You have stocks like Verizon and Coca-Cola and also Cisco Systems. And I think if you do look at these top 10 companies, you'll notice that these are quality, well-entrenched companies with a large segment of their respective market controlled by them. But I think most people, when they would see the top 10 of VIG, they would understand that this is a ETF that is likely to grow more because of the quality top 10 holdings. You do see, of course, tech company, which is an industry that this holds more of. So you see Apple, Broadcom, JP Morgan Chase, Microsoft, United Health Group, ExxonMobil, Visa, MasterCard, Costco, and Home Depot. But with SCHD, you see, again, more value-oriented companies with Pfizer, AbbVie, Cisco, Coca-Cola, Texas Instruments, Bristol-Myers Squibb, BlackRock, Amgen, Chevron, and Verizon Communications. And again, that's not to say that I don't think that these companies are quality in their own right, but me personally, I do see a lot more quality in VIG's top 10 rather than SCHD's top 10. At least quality to grow over time and not necessarily quality in dividend yielding companies. And the differences really come down to the respective investment methodologies of each of these ETFs. SCHD is designed to track the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index, whereas VIG is designed to track the S&P US Dividend Growers Index. Now, the S&P US Dividend Growers Index is basically a list of stocks or companies with a history of increasing their dividends over the previous 10 years, while SCHD has a more higher slant to higher yielding dividend companies in general. So as we see here verbatim from the index page, the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index is designed to measure the performance of high dividend yielding stocks in the US with a record of consistently paying dividends selected for their fundamental strength relative to their peers based on financial ratios. Now, in my opinion, this is a great index and investment methodology to invest in because it really picks the best of high dividend yielding stocks. And again, I don't want to say that this investment methodology is bad, but to each their own based on their own personal preference and where they are in life. If you're needing higher dividend yield, then of course SCHD is great. But verbatim from the US Dividend Growers Index, this index is designed to measure the performance of US companies that have followed a policy of consistently increasing dividends every year for the previous 10 years. And then the index excludes the highest 25% of those yielding eligible companies from that index. And in short, what that means is that the holdings of each respective ETFs, of course, are going to be somewhat different. So with SCHD, because you are including those highest yielding companies, you are going to be invested in things like Verizon Communications or Altria and several other stocks down the line, which again pay high dividends, but they wouldn't really conventionally be seen as growth stocks. And some of these may probably lack on capital appreciation over time again. Whereas with VIG, a lot of these higher stocks here like Apple, Broadcom are going to have more room to grow over time. These are generally more seen as growth companies, of course, and you're not going to see very high yielding dividend companies in this ETF. You'll see some, but not all that many compared to SCHD. And so what does that really mean? Well, it means that SCHD isn't going to grow as much as VIG in price over time. And here is the Dow Jones US Dividend 100 Index. I did a 10-year price return here, and you see an annualized return on average of 7.28%, and that is just the price return. That is not with dividends reinvested. Now with VIG, you see a 10-year annualized price return of 9.4%, so steadily beating out the index that SCHD tracks by about 2%. Now you may ask yourself or me, well, what if we do reinvest those dividends instead? And we can do that too and see the annualized return on average of what we get. And you see a 10-year annualized return of 11.03%, which honestly is a phenomenal price return for a dividend ETF that grows its dividends in a major way over time. But I think if we do look at VIG comparatively, you are going to see that this ETF still outperforms compared to SCHD with its 10-year annualized return of 11.72% compared to 11.03%. Now, again, I want to say that this difference is very slight, but theoretically, there may be some difference over time, especially if you are holding these ETFs in a taxable account, which I am personally doing. And if you invest in a taxable account, of course, you are going to have tax drag over time. And that's just another thing that you can worry about with SCHD over VIG. But yeah, in short, I think VIG is a better holding than SCHD for young investors like myself that want to get into dividends because it offers greater diversification and also the potential to have more growth allocation instead of SCHD, which definitely has quality, but not as many growth-oriented companies that may grow in capital over time. Definitely let me know your personal thoughts on this. If you think the difference is kind of irrelevant, I could definitely see based on the data that I showed, there is a minute difference between total performance over time. So some people may say, well, who cares because it's only 1%. And also, SCHD does have some great dividend growth compared to even VIG. Please, if you did enjoy this content, give this video a like to get this content out there to a wider audience. And if you also watched this far, please subscribe to keep up to date on future content, and I will see you all in the next video.